It's 6:02 p.m. on April 27th, 2021. I want to welcome everyone to this workshop of the City of Kenedy City Council. This is a workshop regarding the construction of an agreement between the City of Kenedy and the Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department. My name is Joe Baker. I'm the Mayor of Kenedy. I'm calling this workshop to order. Item number 2 on the agenda is to call roll and establish that a quorum is present. If the council members will respond with here or present when I call their names. Councilmember Briones?
Present.
Councilmember Wynn?
Here.
Councilmember Sines?
Here.
Councilmember Douglas?
Here.
All are present, and we have a quorum this evening. Leslie, if you will lead us in prayer.
Oh, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time and this day. We ask that you would give us all guidance, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We have a mission before us, and help us to be able to accomplish that mission for the betterment of our community. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That brings us to number 5 on the agenda, open workshop for the purpose of discussing and creating an agreement between the City of Kenedy and the Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department for firefighting, fire prevention, and fire protection services. Mr. Lynn, do you have a presentation on this?
Real brief one there. Last year, the city attorney at that point in time, Mr. Ruiz, at the request of the city council, put together a potential agreement between the fire department and the city, but it didn't get anywhere. So now that we've established them by ordinance, and we've got that taken care of, we now need to move forward to the next step and create this agreement between them for the fire protection services. Okay. Yeah.
And this agreement that we have, the paperwork that we have, that was the previous stuff that they had wrote up, right?
Yes, sir. It was.
Okay.
It was the previous stuff that the previous city attorney had drawn up.
And we've used that agreement with the other fire departments and things.
That agreement never really moved anywhere. It never came before council for adoption. So it was just like left in limbo.
So
But-
we paid them, what, $100,000?
No, this has nothing to do with the
That's what-
100,000.
This has nothing to do with the
Totally different.
interlocal agreement between us and Gillette and all of them in Karnes County to use the tower.
Okay.
These first 3 pages are just for fire protection services to establish that with the volunteer fire department. So it's
Yeah, the one we're doing tonight.
the one we're doing tonight, yes ma'am.
But the other one,
But the other one we don't have to worry about, we already did that, we're done.
that's what I meant. Have we done that one already?
Yes ma'am.
Okay.
I see that Chief Bryan and some other members of the fire department are here. Have you all had a chance to review this?
Yes.
Do you have any questions at this time or comments?
Well, let's start with some of the first page. We just had a question on. So where it says, let's see, first page.
Is it item 1, 2,
It
or
doesn't
3?
have an item. It just says whereas.
That
So-
has nothing to do with it.
Go down to the bottom.
Go down to where it says number 1,
It says Exhibit A in there.
the Roman numeral number 1,
Yeah,
on that
so-
same page.
Yeah,
Everything above that has nothing to do with what we're doing. The stuff above that was for the interlocal agreement on the
Oh, okay, I got you. I
yeah.
got you. Okay.
We're starting with number 1.
Okay.
We don't have Exhibit A. I assume that's just a map of the city, right?
Well, that's a map of the city and the extended territory where the fire department is permitted to go, which is commonly called the fire district.
Does the first section have to, because like in 4, it talks about outside of the city boundary. you have to have that in first part too?
No, this whole thing, page 1, this is all the agreement. This is where we're establishing what they can do, where they can't go, all that kind of stuff. The Exhibit A would be the map that they had for that, which they're currently already servicing that area, correct, Chief?
Well, we don't have the map, but we serve everything. It starts from the hospital, everything south of the hospital. Almost everything west and east up to the river bridge. I mean, the San Antonio River east from us. And then all the way to the county lines.
And then actually, once we get all this taken care of, we can get with Chief and then with the fire department and get those parameters set out so that the attorney can incorporate that in as an exhibit so that it's in there when we get ready to sign the document.
Any questions from the council or discussion? Mr. Lynn, under 3, I assume that once we have the current date, it'll be replaced there?
Yes, sir, yeah, the city attorney will let her update this. The only concern that I have on number 3 is it doesn't have an automatic renewal clause in there. Most of these agreements usually do. So the question I would have for the city council and the fire department is, it would be my recommendation that we treat this kind of like we do some of our utility agreements and that, where when we enter a new agreement for 5 years, it automatically renews for
Another
period of
5
years. That we have an automatic clause in there that automatically renews it for another 5 years if neither party decides to abandon it. So if I don't know if you all would be okay with that. And the reason we do that is for perpetuity. Because then what happens is, as long as the fire department doesn't say, well, we don't want to be a part, the city doesn't say we don't want to be a part, this thing just continues in perpetuity, and, you know, we only have to do the agreement once.
Would every 5 years they would bring it up?
No, we wouldn't have to
We
bring it
wouldn't
up.
have to-
Automatically.
right.
Automatically renew and keep
Unless,
going.
unless we.
Right,
unless
unless,
it's-
unless the fire department said, you know what, we really don't like this agreement anymore, we want to revisit it, or whatever council's presiding at the end of this says, hey, you know what, we want to revamp this again, then we'd have to give them 6 months notice and that, then we would go from there. But as long as all the heirs and everything, the fire department, the council, and the mayor all keep going along with this thing will just go on in perpetuity like nothing's ever happened.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Does the council all agree for automatic renewal?
Yeah.
Is the 5-year period good for everybody for the renewal?
Yes, sir.
And maybe in number 2, it states that the city shall pay the KVFD a sum. Maybe can we amend that somehow to be reflective of the fact that we provide them a budget, where we allocate a portion of our funds to them in the budget instead of it being like instead of using the word pay, like we're actually paying. Would you all be okay with that as the fire department?
Yeah, that's,
Something like compensated a budgeted amount or something?
yeah,
Right,
because like
like that.
in the budget, there's a compensation part or something that, you know, that's still, that's fine.
What do we budget for them?
This year we budgeted more because I put $150,000 in for a vehicle. Usually it's less than $100,000. Yes, which is something the chief and I are going to work on a little bit more this year. I want to get some more SCBA and things of those natures and get, like I had mentioned in this last budget year, some of that stuff has expiration dates on it. And so what you got to do is right now, all their stuff was bought with the grant. So it was all bought at the same time, so it's all going to die at the same time. We got to start staggering it to where we have fresh stuff every so often coming in when it's going out for our guys to make sure they have the best equipment available.
You know, where in here does it address the chief and the truck?
It doesn't in here, and we can. We can pop that in just about anywhere. Like in section number 8 where it says KVFD shall, we can pop in at the end of that, a deal that says the city shall.
Okay.
Okay, on number 8, we can put, the city shall provide the KVFD fire chief with a take-home unit.
Yeah, and it needs to put the parameters in there also where he can, if we're going to provide the vehicle, and like we had talked, it needs to be where he can use the vehicle
Use it.
and have some parameters of which he can use it within, but not limited to
Going
so
out in the
that
county and stuff
yeah,
like that.
so that he can go do what he need to do with it as a fire. And if he is on his way home and he stops at HEB and he's in the fire in that truck, we don't want that to be an issue. We don't want citizens calling us saying, "Well, he was at HEB in the well, he has permission to do that. He was on his way home. He stopped. He got what he had to have. He didn't drive all the way to the house, park the truck, get back in his personal truck, drive all the way back into town. That's not productive. And if he drives all the way home, parks the truck, he gets a call while he's on the way to HEB. Then he's got to turn back around, go back to his house, get the truck. So it would be practical for him to be able to operate the truck and be able to handle those type of things within a said parameter.
Right.
Y'all agree?
Yeah.
The only caveat that I would place on that would be, we're going to have to put in a stipulation that, and I don't know your personal life, this is just a standard thing I'm fixing to say, you're not allowed to have any alcohol or transport any alcohol
Right.
in a city-owned vehicle.
Right. Well, that's in all city vehicles.
Right, but we'd have to put that in here for that reason, just to stipulate that.
Okay. Y'all okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But as long as it still be used, like if I've got to go out of town for fire business.
If you got to go out of town for fire business,
fire
that's no
department
question.
business,
If it's
yeah.
fire department business, it's a mute issue.
Okay.
The only thing that is gray, and the reason it's gray is because you got people that want to have an opinion, and that's not going to change in this community. But if we have it in an agreement so that when someone says something, we say that's totally within his parameters as the fire chief to do that. And that's the end of it. We don't have to hear it smash right then instead of, well, we need to check and see what it was, and that we don't need that. And you don't need that.
Right.
You don't need somebody calling saying, why were you at, the truck was at HEB the other day, why were you there? You don't need that.
Also, like Mr. Lynn pointed out, they're never really off as a first responder.
That's right.
So it's an enhancement to the safety of HEB if he's there in his fire truck, because he has the equipment to respond effectively. So I think it's a good thing for the community.
Yeah.
Because you never know, because, hey, grocery stores, man, grapes, #1 item, slip and fall incidents in grocery stores. I'm just saying, if you're there and that happens, Johnny, I'm sorry.
Does this agreement need to have, that we need a clerk for the department?
The agreement doesn't have it, but we put it in the budget. So, and y'all are gonna need someone to take care of the books and all that, that's gonna be obvious. So, I
Okay,
think
so, but,
we can put that in under the city shall part, that way we're providing the clerk for that.
so on the, stipulation on, the deal on the clerk, so is that just to deal with the city side, budget and whatever we have from the city? Because eventually we're trying to go 501c3, right?
Right.
She's not gonna be doing our 501c3 stuff, right?
Well, what you would look at that point is, as a 501c3, you're going to have to file Form 990-PF every year, okay? Which is a very thick document. And you're going to really have to list everybody out. So you're going to have to keep very accurate records as to who all donates, exactly how much they donate, what it was used for, or what it was donated. You're also going to have to separate your funds into general funds and restricted funds. So for example, if you get a ConocoPhillips grant, And that grant is for, say, fire equipment related to SCBA, things of that nature. Those are what's called restricted funds. You can't use that for anything but those items. So you're going to have someone that can take care and do all of that as well. So what we can do is, given the fact that the city auditor is the auditor who's going to audit your books going forward, as well as the city's books, it probably is in the best interest if we provide the clerk. That way we can hold the clerk accountable for anything that's not right when the auditor audits.
Y'all
But
have,
remember, you
y'all
are still electing your officers.
y'all
So
y'all
you're
have,
still going to have your own treasurer. You're still going to have, of that thing. All the city would be providing is someone to actually do the book. So your treasurer would be a part of that as well. Okay, so they're going to know what's going on. But I just think it's just the most prudent thing to do, because if something goes wrong and the auditor says something's wrong, we have to do what we have to do. If we control, I don't say if we control, but if the person's coming from the city that's actually providing the bookkeeping services, then the city manager or the city secretary who's over all the clerks is over that individual and we need to do that. So you all would have say, and this person isn't doing this person isn't doing this, we would prefer like that.
but there are going to have to be some changes in the way that the money is handled once you guys become fully 503, because the laws are very strict in that, and there is no gray in that. It's black and white, and
There will need to be a receipt for every transaction.
Yeah.
everything.
Yes.
Your books are public record. Anybody can request your books at any time. So, yeah. Which I would say, given the fact that you're shooting for a 501c3 designation from the IRS, okay, I know that historically VFDs typically have their own everything, and they typically do a lot of everything themselves, but not every VFD is a 501c3. Okay? So my recommendation, and this is just a recommendation, is that maybe you could do like the 4B does. Maybe we could contract with the VFD, the city, to do your books for you. That way your books would be on our server, be using the same software that we're already paying for. You would have access to the financial data and all of that, and then it makes it easier for the auditor to audit them, and also makes it easier for us to do an open records request to make sure that that's getting taken care of in the event someone wants to see your financials and that. And then what I would be able to do is I'd be able to put your financials up on the web like I do the city's financials. I can separate them out. And then that actually takes care of a lot of open records requests, because once I make it public myself on behalf of the city, then when someone says, we want the financials for the VFD, all we have to say is, that's already public, just go to the website, click on this tab, it's right there, and we fulfilled our legal obligation at that point. So it actually takes a lot of responsibility off of you guys to do that.
Even if, you said like even if we contracted like a CPA or something like that?
Well, you could contract the CPA to do everything as far as, your end of the month or end of the quarter, end of the year stuff, but it's going to get very costly to the fire department to hire a CPA to do your day-to-day bookkeeping.
I just didn't know, because I talked to the auditor outside of that, and he had said it'd be best if we got something like that, like just to be on the straight and narrow, that that a company would do something like that too. So I mean, that would be one of two choices.
That would be one of two. If you all feel like that you all can afford that, you all would do that. Now I know the city wouldn't put money in the budget for you to pay for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas if you were, say, using our financial person, which would be Miss Murphy, who has an extreme auditing background, we would be taking care of that cost for you. So it would actually save you money, give you more usable funds. But definitely that is a viable option if you guys want to look at that.
So would you say the clerk now would be doing our 501c3 or Ms. Murphy would?
No, if we bring it into the city and we keep it here, Ms. Murphy will be doing your books.
I'm very easy to work with. I
Awesome.
respect you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'm
she will,
glad to do it.
and she will guide you on, okay, maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do that, or we don't need to do this, or we don't need to do that. You know, she'll answer your questions and let you know what you need to be doing to make sure your books are accurate and everything's going the way it has to go.
Of
And
course.
what that would do is, that would take away the necessity at that point for you to have an in-house clerk like you have now. We would be able to let Ms. Murphy take care of that part of everything, of the finances, and you could have like, you guys could even do it yourselves, you know, keep your own inventories of stuff and all that kind of stuff, just whenever she needs it, just give her the copy, you know, or whenever we're sitting down to talk, make sure you have an updated copy of all that.
Of course, Ms. Murphy would need to work with their secretary treasurer from time to time.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's a good idea for the sake of continuity. I know sometimes those people change at those positions from time to time. So it'd be good to have someone that's more long range, see the big picture over time, and have all the records here at City Hall. I think it sounds like a good idea to me.
That sounds,
Are you all okay with that?
I like that idea.
You like that?
Her,
That was something good.
Ms. Murphy doing everything. I
Good.
don't worry about it.
So one other question goes to, so would there, like, just to see what the clerk does for us, like to see like, you know, yeses and nos, like, I don't know how the black and white reads. So like, for instance, like, you know, the way we do our meetings, I'll put it this way, the way we do our meetings is we have a, like kind of like a closed session meeting, and then we bring out that meeting to the outside if necessary for certain things. That part of the meeting, is that for our private own use? Like, not to be brought out from the clerk to come out and tell you guys?
Okay, so
I'm just trying to figure out how that part works.
think of it like this. What we'll do is with you guys, once you guys get going, is, you know, I can sit down with you, or our new city secretary can sit down with you guys, and we can walk you through how to conduct a meeting properly with the open and the closed sessions, okay? Anytime you have a closed session that's closed from the public, you have to take minutes in that, okay? And then those minutes have to be sealed completely, and then they have to be stored somewhere safe, and nobody's allowed to open those minutes, okay? Those minutes are protected by law under the executive session rules of the code, and most judges can't even get those open, okay? However, your open portion needs to have minutes as well. So anytime you're in the open portion, your secretary will be taking minutes, much like our city secretary takes minutes. And they'll be doing that. So just kind of, you know, think of it like the old adage, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in executive session stays in executive session.
So what is the clerk going to be doing now with them?
Okay, so originally the clerk did all of this, you know, organizing their books and doing their inventory and getting them set up, okay? That's what she was sent over there to do,
Okay.
was help get them organized, okay? Now that they're in the process, they've got their articles of incorporation filed with the state of Texas, they got their receipt back saying that they're a tax exempt organization with Texas. They're working on their 501c3 right now. So once they get all that done, then what will happen is the dynamic with their approval will shift just a little bit. Ms. Murphy will take care of all the financial aspects of everything, putting it into our N code and all of that, and creating the revenues and expenditures and all of that. However, they will still take the money to the bank and put it in their bank account. They'll be responsible for giving her the deposit tickets and that, letting her know what checks are being written, those kind of things. And which we could even do if you all wanted to do it, and I'm not opposed to it, if you're not opposed to it, we can order checks with your VFD on it, with your bank account on it. We can keep them here at City Hall, and when you need to write checks, Ms. Murphy can print them so that the money comes straight out of your account on the expenditure line right away, and you don't have to report to her, you know, things, and we'll have receipts and everything to go with it right then and there. And then your signatories would come over here and see Ms. Murphy, or she'll come over there, and you guys will sign the checks at that point.
So one of the things that benefit us too with, you know, the account that we did have, or we do have, is at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, we've bought drinks with it, or we've bought, something, of that nature, when we've sat at a fire for 10, plus hours, and we've bought, supper with it, to feed guys that are still at a fire or something like that. Is that not gonna work that way anymore?
Well, the way that would work is if you have a logoed debit card, and by logoed I mean MasterCard, Visa, or American Express on that, okay, from your bank, okay, you can still keep that, okay. You're just going to have that in the possession of someone in authority, okay, who's an authorized signer on the account. What you would have to do with that is, anytime you use that debit card, you would then have to write on the receipt what it was for. So, let's say 6 of you attended a fire just shy of Three Rivers, okay, and you were there till 2 o'clock in the morning. Somehow McDonald's was open here in Kenedy. You took the guys to McDonald's and bought them a burger, okay. All you have to do is on that receipt, you get it, you write on the receipt, late night dinner, fire in Three Rivers, and that. And then you come in and you hand it to Miss Murphy, and then Miss Murphy will take care of entering that into the particular line item and everything. And that, you can still keep the debit card.
Okay. So that was my question.
Yes.
I didn't know if it just had to be checks only again.
No,
If we
no.
go back to
But what I'm saying is we could have the computer-generated checks here, which makes it easier for bookkeeping and things of that nature. So when we're paying bills.
Yeah, I understand.
And
just
once
boom, boom.
once that receipt is turned in, it gets entered into that same system. So when something is questioned, everything is in one place. All the information is right there. Very, very crucial for your record keeping and for handling monies that you're going to have to report, because on your 501c3 at the end of the year, when you have to give an account, and it has to be. It's very challenging for some people to stay in their 501c3 standing because they don't understand how important it is to have accurate documentation of the money. So what she's talking about, what the city manager and Judy's talking about doing for you guys is a huge, huge thing that will be off your back.
Yes.
If you teach everybody to handle it the way it should be handled, you will never have a situation where it blows up in your face.
Oh, definitely. We don't want to be questioned,
Right,
again,
right. I understand.
because that's.
I don't know if you answered my question.
Ms. Scott, I got a question.
What is Mandy going to be doing now?
She is out on leave. We can address that. I'll address that when she comes back. Or actually, Ms. Bevan will address that when she comes back.
So my question
that
for
was
Mandy
my
too
question.
again is like, well, not just for Mandy, but so our meetings need to be open to the public. Like
Yes.
our
Yes.
personal
Yes.
meetings.
Yes.
Once you become a 501c3.
Once you become a 501c3,
Yes.
those meetings have to be
Not
open.
yet. The question is,
Well,
Right now.
Ms. Scott, do they have to be open to the public right now, since they are being provided taxpayers' money to fund the department?
Since they've been adopted by ordinance, you all should have open meetings.
Okay.
And of course with the 501c3, definitely. But because you have been accepted through ordinance from the city and you are now a part of the city, you should also be having your open meetings.
So then we can work on that.
So then you are going to take the open meetings from,
Yeah.
it's free.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure, because some of the meetings that we have now that we assumed were to ourselves, would get out, and we don't know how. I mean, we know how, but
Well, a lot of that will
Just
go
wanted to
away
make
now
sure.
because there's certain rules that, actually, just so you all know, whenever you have an executive session, it's a Class B misdemeanor. That's
For
a-
somebody to talk
that's
about
a
what
criminal-
happened in
that's a criminal
that
offense.
meeting. Yeah.
To talk about executive session stuff outside.
It's a higher level of record keeping that's necessary for 501c3 and a higher level of scrutiny from the outside. But on the plus side, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lynn, this will also present more opportunities for private contributions to the fire department, as it
Yes.
will be tax deductible for the contributors.
Yes.
Most definitely, and I will mention one name in particular, Walmart. Walmart loves to donate money, but unless you have
Yeah.
the way they conduct
We've
it.
been down there, that's why we've been trying to
That's
get
why we're
Walmart
trying to
to
get
get
water.
Yeah.
We've got Walmart, we've got a lot of these other coal companies.
Walmart will throw money your way once you become a 501c3.
Back to the third thing, just like what we're getting at is just kind of been more of a problem than it's really helped us. Like you're saying, it was supposed to help us because we thought we were kind of against it at first, but we thought, okay, after a while maybe this would help. But to be honest, it's actually been more of a headache than anything. There's no communication. I mean, even organizing our stuff, like just kind of did what their own thing. I mean, so like we don't even know where half of our stuff is now. I mean, heck, the other day we were locked out of our own file cabinets. I mean, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what we're getting at. I mean, do we really have to have a clerk, or could we like maintain our own stuff? I mean, and filing and reporting, or you would have to report to you, or they would have to report to you as far as getting something for the council meetings and stuff like that. You know, I mean, it's just kind of a big salary, you know, for once or twice a month maybe to be in there. You know, and especially if she's going to be doing our financials. I mean, that's probably the biggest headache, to be honest. So that would actually be good, you know, on that part.
Well, the basic filing and basic clerical things, once we move all your financial stuff over here to Judy, you all can do what you need to do. We won't need to put a clerk. That's what I'm saying. By doing the financials and bringing them over here to Judy and letting Ms. Murphy take care of all this for you guys, then we're not going to have, there's not going to be a necessity for the city of putting one over there. And you all, can file things on it. Just, every once in a while, Ms. Murphy may say something, or I may say, okay, guys, I may text Chief, hey, Chief, I need to see your records for the SCBA stuff for the last 5 years, okay? And I will be able to expect you to find it, say, here it is, and look at it, okay, great, super, we're good, okay? So, y'all will be held accountable for those records because, as a 501c3, all those records are now public access. So you've got to make sure you have them kept up. So, and that will fall to you guys to do all that. It's just that we'll take the financial stuff off your shoulders for you so that you all don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say earlier.
Yeah, that would be
Becoming
big
a
help.
501c3 is a big deal for you guys, and it's a good thing. But it also requires you to be much better at your clerical stuff than you are today.
And that's why we look for a CPA. We've been, heck, for 2 years now we've been trying to do this, and it's kind of gone and then disappeared and gone and disappeared, So we've been trying to do this for a while already, and hopefully finally we're now in the right direction to get this completed and done, So we understand that, there is a lot more grant money out there. We've already gone for some already, and there's more for companies, like you said, that you have to do that part if we do so. We're not against it at all. We're just trying to clarify stuff.
Yeah, I think it's very, very good for the fire department to be a 501c3 because, like you said, it opens up doors for more money and it opens up doors for more donations. A lot of your grants require that you have some type of tax exempt status, and that will help you guys a whole lot more.
We've missed out on a lot.
Yeah, and
since we've been here.
by
We missed out on a whole lot of stuff that we know that could have benefited us because we've had people talk to us and tell us, man, if you were a 501c3, it would have been done. And we had to say no.
yeah.
It's a deal breaker with a lot of companies.
Yeah, because those companies have they budget every year X amount of dollars to give away. When I wrote my budget at Alamo, I had X amount of dollars that I could give away every year, but it had to be a non-profit organization, and they had to have a tax ID because there's a form that you fill out for that donation, and it goes to corporate, and corporate files it where it's supposed to be, and everybody's happy. But what I was getting at, it's just the clerical part of what you guys do. You guys do an awesome job of fighting fires and taking care of your equipment and all that. But the clerical side, you're going to have to get good at. I hadn't heard all of the audit, but I did hear what the auditor gave us the other night, which everybody heard. And there's some stuff that they're going to be asking questions about.
We talked to him outside.
Good.
We got a good clarification of kind of what he was asking and stuff like that. Because I reached out. That was the first thing. Because you know, we get it.
Right.
We get it 100%. You know.
And Mr. Lind, as this gets up and running, 3 main points of contact between the fire department and the city will be yourself, the new city secretary, Ms. Bevan, and Ms. Murphy. Is that correct?
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay.
And the chief communicating with them is very, very crucial.
And we've been working together.
Yeah.
He threw us a bone a couple of weeks ago up on Graham Road for me, and I appreciated that. Brought a fire truck up, threw some water on some dirt for me, and kept the dust down. So, one thing I would say, I've set up a lot of 501c3s in the last 7 years. Okay, and there's different income levels as to how you can set it up, and you can file online to set it up if you're going to be under $50,000 annually. But one thing that they do highly recommend, that I highly recommend, that I do for cities, is whenever you get a donation, you have a donation letter, and it can be a standard letter where you go in and you just change out somebody's name, but you leave all your base information in there. And what that letter does is identifies everything that was done, like Walmart, dear Walmart, thank you for your donation. I have $50,000 for this. And then down at the bottom it says, nothing was exchanged. They didn't receive anything for this donation. And that way they can take that, they give it to their accounting department is their CPA, and that's what they use with the IRS to get their tax deduction off of everything. I have a standard one I can send you that I've used, and we can change it up if you want. If not, that's fine.
No, yeah, that's fine because we have a donation letter.
Okay.
Like little things that people maybe donated food or something like that. We've given like a thank you to, but to have that one and that one maybe combine it would be good.
Yeah, and I'll gear it towards you. I'll change because we're not a 501c3, we're a 170. And so I'll change it from that to the 501c3 designation in there for you guys.
Yeah, that'll work.
Now, in this agreement, was there anything else that you guys saw that you were uncomfortable with or needed to have some conversation about?
Mr. Lynn, number 6 right here. It says, other than set forth above, that Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department is responsible for all insurance requirements connected with the operation of the KVFD as to personal injury or property damage to any persons or property. The fire department shall hold the city harmless from any liability in connection with injury to any persons or damage to any property arising out of the operations of the fire department. Isn't the city holding the insurance for the fire department?
Yes, we actually, the TML, pay for all the insurance
Okay.
for them, and then it gets expensed to their budget line item.
Would the city be responsible for, with this, I don't know if we've done that, but they check the driver's license for, if they have a driver's license, a valid driver's license?
That should be the
would they
chief
have to
that's
do
checking.
that?
Right, that would fall to Chief Brian and the officers whenever they have a new member come in to do that. What I would always recommend in a situation like this is that whenever every year, maybe just provide us with a list of drivers and their driver's licenses so we can keep it on file here at City Hall for the auto liability for the insurance on the vehicles. So that we have that. So, and we can,
Do y'all do that periodically, or
Not to
can they do that?
Only when they come
Yes.
in.
They can do that?
yes, actually the chief and the assistant chief have the autonomy to request of any person who drives the vehicle to see their driver's license, just to make sure that it's a current driver's license and they're not driving expired.
Okay.
Because an expired license, the insurance does not cover.
Yeah. And because it's happened before in the city.
Yeah,
And the guy didn't
They
know?
think about expired license. We,
Yeah.
of course, you know, somebody gets a ticket for something, most of the time, the next day, everybody knows about it, so.
Well,
you know,
this is
kind of
true.
pushing that.
That's true.
But you can think about the expired ones, so.
Yeah. Because it's happened in the city and it was crazy, but.
Chief, under section 8, number 5, it mentions the Constitution and bylaws of the Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department. Do you have a constitution set of bylaws at this time? Are you in the process of constructing those?
No, we had some, and I believe,
We were waiting
Okay.
on.
she was going to look
Right.
them over, make sure everything was okay.
Okay.
We have their bylaws on file.
Do we know how that's looking, or has it been looked at?
It's been looked at a little bit, but I'd like to, you know, actually write out any recommendations that I would make. I don't have those at the meeting at this time.
Just a question on number 8, well, number 2. It says assure that all members of the KVFD are well trained, certified to state standards, and operate under an incident command system to ensure an orderly response to these incidents. Wasn't that the same one that other deal had and it kind of got changed?
I'm sorry, which number?
On number 8?
Number 8, number 2.
Yeah.
The last workshop we did,
Yeah, remember, I think it kind of said something like that, but I think that rewarded till may or shall or something like that.
Yeah.
Kinda-
Well, this just says that you will train.
What I'm saying.
It doesn't say you have to. The other one was saying that you had to be part of the fire department. This says you will train, and that's expected. We expect
Yeah.
you guys to continue training and to work to get certifications and all that. But it doesn't say you have to or you must.
We just want to make sure it wasn't, because I know
Right.
it changes up in the other
Yeah.
one, so it wasn't the same.
And the other ordinance, or the ordinance that we have establishing the department, it is consistent with this, where, you know, it offers some idea of an initiative for getting trained, but it does not say that you have to do it.
That's a good question, though.
it's in the budget.
No, not that one.
Question, so in the past, before, like, let's say somebody went to training, right, because you can go to A&M, San Marcos, New Braunfels, Floresville, we had some guys go to Wixie. Every now and then, some people take their own vehicles just because either they're getting out of work, or they all carpool, you know, go to one vehicle or something. Now, is there anything anywhere in this one or the other ordinance to saying that you can get compensated back for like fuel expenses or like before when you buy food, like if you bought snacks or you bought, you know, lunch, supper, dinner, whatever, you turn in a receipt and you get compensated out of the budget for, I guess, training purposes. So I don't know if that's clarified in here or is that kind of something that just happens automatically or does it have to be put into anything somewhere?
The ordinance that we have right now is silent as to that. It does not have anything about mileage reimbursement or meals. We could add some sort of reference to that even being in the bylaws or a certain, you know, policy that you all have. Or you could just add it to the ordinance. Some language that would, you know, refer to that being a possibility for reimbursement.
I know it's-
Well,
I know the city did it
if we
before.
did that, then I would insist that you follow the personnel policy and the council policy for what we will pay for the council and the city employees. It's actually broken down into breakfast, lunch, and dinner as to how much you're allowed to spend. It is non-accumulative, so if you don't eat breakfast, you don't get to roll that $7 into lunch, okay? Choose or lose. So I would insist upon that. That way it keeps continuity and uniformity between everything in the city.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, just, but I mean, that way we had something. That way, you know, we can have it in the stream. Like, okay, hey, if you go to training, you know, you're gonna get X amount for this. You know, and I'm not saying they take it every time. I mean, sometimes, you know, they used to use the old chief's truck or something to go. You know, and it's not like everybody's taking their card. You know, 3 or 4 people will jump in one. So vehicle, but like I said, it just the gas prices are kind of going up. You know, so.
Well, what we would do in that aspect is we would take your budget as a city, and Chief and I sit down, we'll figure out, okay, about how many trainings at a time do you think you're going to have, those type of things. And then we would put that into the line item for training in your budget. That way it's budgeted funds so we can spend them. Okay, and then we would have, that would have to be managed by you guys based upon that number.
Would you all want a reference to that within the agreement?
Yeah, I think it should be in there. Yeah, it should be in there.
I think it's a good incentive for training. Like I said,
Yeah.
if you've been paying your own gas costs up until this point, then
Well,
this
it would actually be it would get mileage
meals.
and meals. You wouldn't actually get whatever your gas cost is. You get mileage.
Yeah. And when some trainings they offer me like the food, you know what I mean? So I mean, most of the time it's, but every now and then they don't.
They did.
I think they did.
They did lunch and then dinner.
And
Yeah.
A&M, most of the time it's your lunch is there, except for your breakfast. And
Yeah, and if you buy a meal card when you actually sign up, you can go to the hall or whatever and have supper. That's real. Sometimes we don't buy the meal card because you know they might go one time for that kind of expense instead of all the time. So.
One thing I would be willing to do, if the council is on board with this, of course, they're the council, they can say no or yes. I would even be willing and inclined to build in some money to pay for some of these classes for some of you guys as well. That way we can ensure that you guys are doing
Build it into their budget.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think
Yeah, I think
Fold
it should be in
Fold
there.
that into their
Yeah.
training line.
there is already a training item. I think it's like 7,000 if I'm not mistaken. It might be a little more, 6,000. Yeah, we already have a training line item in the budget. That's what we usually use if we go. I think we just had to write a check to Wixit for that, right? So there is a line item for that. So and there is some grants too. When you sign up for that, you actually get that money so we can put back into that account, into that budget item that falls under the Texas Forest Service. So, you know, what I mean, so like when you get budgeted and we're kind of close to that, you get some of that back. So,
I think given the consensus that the head nods tonight, I think we'll be able to work something out with you guys.
Yeah, I believe we're all in
Yeah.
agreement on
We're
that.
100% in agreement because we really want you to do the training, because the more training you do, the better you are at doing the job. The better you are at doing the job, the greater chance it is that you're going to save somebody's life and take care of this community. That's what you're here to do, is to take care of this community. And you know, that's what you volunteering your time for and putting your life on the line for. So we want you to have as much training as you can get so that you can do it to the best of your ability.
It's for the safety of the residents and the firefighters.
That's right.
I would equate it like this. I don't know much about being a firefighter. In fact, I know about this much. But law enforcement's my sweet spot. So being a cop myself, if you look at a police department and you, let's say, no matter how big or how small the department is, if you found out that that department had 90% of their officers as master peace officers, that would make you feel a little better, wouldn't it? Knowing that they were more highly trained in things. I mean, I guess this would have to come down to a budget conversation later on when we have those meetings, but I don't know how much is in their training budget. Was it like 7,000 or something?
somewhere on there.
Usually it was 6.
What I mean, obviously we have to vote on this stuff later, but if I was y'all, I would look at trying to come up with a cost of how much it would cost during this next budget cycle, how much it would cost to get those in y'all's department certified through TEACS. That certification that we talked about before, whoever doesn't have it, how much would it cost to get that done? You know, approximately. And then meet with Mr. Lynn and have those conversations. And I mean, it may come down to having to put a little bit more in this budget cycle for training. Or the 7,000 may cover it. I have no idea. I don't know how much it would cost to send people to that. But
Or at least have a number. If say you got 20 people that need it, and this year you want to get 10 of them done, and next year you want to get the other 10 done, and then, but look at what it's going to cost, so that when you're looking at that line item, you know what that number really should be to accomplish the things that you guys need to accomplish for the training.
And also,
So just gotta have like every year, kind of have like a wishful training list.
That's right. Every year you should have a training
don't
budget.
ask, the
and you
answer's
should
always no.
Yeah, you should always have money set aside for training, because you're never going to outdo the training.
and then with this specifically, getting going out here in my city, it should be a lot easier for a lot of us. And then
Closer to home.
when they bring ticks come down here and train, it kind of costs us anything because we're part of it. In other words, just like Wixie did. They did training over there, so they charge so much for every person to come in. So it's the same thing that's going to happen here sooner or later. We're going to get other departments to come in and pay for some of the training, but ours is our department. It's not going to cost us.
It's going to cost us nothing.
So, and the 5 minutes away. So we shouldn't have too much of an excuse that we can't make it. I can't
Right.
be for a week go up there.
And that's why we push training in our department so hard.
And
You know.
so,
Just so they know that there's more training to look forward to, something that's gonna benefit them and the town. So we push real hard on the guys that, are in there, they show up,
And I think training should be a required show up, not,
I agree.
Yeah, I
agree
think
100%.
you
And it weeds
should.
out, it weeds out the people who don't wanna be there.
That's
or
right.
leaving.
If that person don't, if you got somebody who can't ever show up for training, they shouldn't be on your equipment, because they're putting your life and other lives in danger.
Yep. And that's one thing we would constantly push for that. And some people don't like it.
Yeah, but that's the reality of where you're at.
That might be something
I don't want
put you on
somebody trying to save my life that don't know
We're
what
kinda
they're
setting
doing.
that slowly in, and so the ones that don't accept it, they'll weed themselves out.
Are we good?
Any other questions or concerns from anyone here this evening?
We did everything.
Scad, you have enough information to go on to complete your work on this?
I'll end up sending over what we specified, the changes as well as the additions. We're going off of this draft that we already have that's updated. And then everyone can tell me, if you all meant something else, or if you thought of anything else in the meantime, maybe that we would like to add.
Good idea.
Well, if there are no further questions, we'll move on to number 6. We'll declare the workshop closed at this time. And then item number 7, meeting adjourned. Thank y'all for coming this evening.
Thank you all.